We testified on March 8th to a joint hearing of the committee and the Senate Energy Committee regarding our opposition to House Bill 14 in its current form. We also indicated at that time that we were very open to seeking possible alternatives and appreciated Representative McCarthy's willingness, as he just reiterated today, to keep working on this issue. We sent 2 weeks ago a proposal to Representative McCarthy, an alternative proposal that we think will help the utilities in Illinois realize the modernization of the state's electric grid. We had a lot of testimony last week. ComEd's president on March 8th stated that it's time to build a grid for the 21st century economy, and the comments then and last week really centered on both making some necessary improvements to equipment that's old and outdated, but also to modernize the grid for the kinds of things that we've been talking about here both last week and then today as well, to really prepare the grid for next generation technologies. Those are goals that we share at the ICC, and our problems with HB 14 are not the goals. Our problems are the way that those goals are accomplished in the bill, and that's why we provided an alternative proposal to that, which we think would provide the utility the opportunity to utilize a special cost recovery mechanism for infrastructure investments, often referred to as a rider, which would apply to the utility's cost to refurbish, rebuild, modernize, expand, or create systems to maintain or improve upon their ability to provide safe, reliable, high quality, and affordable electric service to current and future customers. And it would also allow for the introduction of the innovative technologies that we all think are very important. And real briefly, here's how it would work. The utility would make a filing with the Commission that describes their plan to improve the grid, which would include estimates of expenditure and investments and the timing which those would be done, and describe the changes proposed to existing systems and to new systems. It would also include economic development impacts, as well as job creation, schedules for implementation, and statements from experts attesting to the veracity of the petition and the likelihood of achieving the goals. Interested parties could participate in our review, and then at some point it would be anticipated we would issue an order that would address the plan's feasibility, necessity, and affordability, the benefits and costs, the components of the special cost tracking mechanism, and limits to ensure the rate changes don't exceed 5% of the customer's delivery service rates. Now, the difference between that and a current rate case would be under our proposal, they would be able, the utility, as soon as the plan was approved, they would be able to spend in accordance with that plan. And then we would just have a yearly reconciliation period, as we do with other riders, where we would just make sure that the money that was spent in accordance with the plan that had already been approved. So once the plan is approved, when you start talking about the certainty, that's been such a buzzword here during the hearings, that certainty is there, because as long as they spend in accordance with the plan that's already been approved by the Commission through a hearing process, that certainty should be there as long as those dollars fit the plan that was already approved. This plan would eliminate what we call the regulatory lag, the idea that you've heard about that says the utility spends the money in the hope that the ICC will then approve it through a later rate case. That this will change that, because again, the money can be spent and the recovery of that can start as soon as the plan is approved by the Commission. On Friday evening, in a letter, Representative McCarthy, ComEd indicated that our proposal is not something that they can support, but we strongly believe, to go back to the original premise, that the proposed formula rate mechanism in HB 14 really eliminates the current system of ensuring costs that remain just and reasonable, and that obviously is what the ICC is set up to do, to balance both the interest of the utilities and making sure that they have adequate, efficient, reliable, safe, and least cost public utility services. And again, within the model, profits should be reasonable and do two things: allow for strong, healthy utility companies and protect the consumer from high rates. And unfortunately, in our opinion, as it's written right now, HB 14 only does one of those two things. Our proposal, again, attempts to address the compelling points of the utilities' proposals while allowing for proper review and participation, as you've heard is important from the other groups. And again, we're more than willing to continue to work to sit down with all of the interested parties and try to work on something that makes sense for all the people of Illinois. Thank you.